Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Play by Play with me, Jerry, and Coach Pat. Hey, today we have a pretty good show for you. We're going to do our Friday football picks, and then we're going to talk about assistant coaches. Should assistant coaches get credit for their head coach wins or losses? Well, before we do that, hey, Pat, how's it going?
Things are going good, Jerry. Again, it's starting to cool down here in the great Southwest, be about 86 degrees today. Um, but I'm always excited by football season, not only here on the Mexico State's campus, but nationally. And there's a lot of great games to pick from this coming week. So, where are we going?
Well, so I would think we would start with college. And and again, guys, this is just for fun, but we're going to we just are competitive coaches and we like to see how we do with these things. So we put them out there for you to look at. So do you want to start or do you want me to start, Pat?
I will start with the following, which I think are headliner kind of games, star-studded games. Baylor at Colorado. Colorado's minus 251 over under. And I think Baylor comes to town and knocks off Colorado. They definitely by a touchdown, at least by a touchdown. I think in the trenches is where the Colorado Buffaloes are hurting. Little size, no depth. They are fantastic offensively with Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, etc. But I'll take Baylor in what's a little bit of an upset at Colorado this weekend to start with.
You know what? I agree with you on Baylor. I that's one of my picks this week. I think that Colorado just is weak on the interior line. They haven't showed that they can protect the quarterback, and I think Baylor just has more talent on the interior of their line. One of my top picks is Indiana. Indiana's
Ooh,
playing Charlotte, and Indiana's favored by 28 and a half. I would buy that down to 28 if I were ever going to bet these games. But Indiana has beat UCLA. Charlotte's down to their third string quarterback, and it's a home game. So I think Indiana has an easy time with Charlotte.
that is a uh, that is some inside info, fans. Let me tell you, when you get down to the third string QB, you got to do some research to do that. All right. We're going to go a little bit off the grid. There's a lot of great games this weekend. I think Michigan at USC, Tennessee at Oklahoma. Uh, I think Illinois at Nebraska, because Nebraska, I think, is a hot item to me with Dylan Raiola, their quarterback. But I'm going to go east, Jerry, and I'm going to go, and this one's on the board, believe it or not. Maryland is playing Villanova. All right, and they are a 19 and a half point favorite, 43.5 over under. I think that Maryland wins by 3 touchdowns. Again, this game is not big on the board. Villanova's a 1AA opponent, but Maryland to beat Villanova at College Park by more than 19 and a half.
Oh, that's great pick. Maryland over Villanova by 19 and a half. So they do they play every year?
No, they do not. So it's one of those, guarantee games. And they got Villanova coming down I-95. Villanova's a good 1AA ball club, but Maryland should overpower them. Let's hope so.
So I got another one that I like. Uh, Georgia Tech plus 10 and a half, 11 against Louisville. Uh,
Ooh.
simply, simply for this one reason. The head coach at Georgia Tech is undefeated and covers the spread versus ranked teams.
And Louisville is -10 going into this game.
So the point spread has dropped. So you always want to look at that.
Right.
So
So
yes,
you're gonna have Georgia Tech to cover or beat
Georgia,
them flat
yeah,
out.
yeah, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech might be a like a money line game where they win straight up, but um, they're a lot better than what they show. They play people close, and again, the coach is 5-0 so far against it in his last 5 games against the spread. He covers every time when he's a dog.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And Louisville is highly regarded in the ACC, but Georgia Tech, as we know, has gotten off to a great start. I'm going to do one more, Jerry,
Go ahead. I
and
got one more for you too.
uh, I'm going to take a primetime game that I think is going to be extremely exciting. Uh, it is the introduction to the SEC by Oklahoma versus Tennessee. Tennessee at Oklahoma. Tennessee is -7, and it's a 57.5 over under. I'm taking Oklahoma to battle their buns off and get under the 7. I think Tennessee is young at quarterback, although the young man is a stud. I'm taking the Sooners to show up and cover that 7 points. Oklahoma getting 7.
Nice. The only other 2 games I like and that I looked at one was Michigan State getting 6.5 at Boston College. Um,
Yep.
and again, it comes down to what they do against the spread when they're an underdog. They got a high percentage of covering. And then the other one, which I think was a lot simpler than what I thought. It's just Houston, who I think is a really good team, um, getting 3.5 against Cincinnati.
Yeah, that one is actually marked off as a big play in the Phil Steele plus inside the press box
Nice.
news, news alert that I get. He likes Houston as well. The only other one that stands out to me because they're hot right now and they better show up after their upset of Notre Dame is look at Northern Illinois -14 against Buffalo.
Mm,
Northern Illinois is the real deal in the
yeah,
MAC. In fact, I think it's the only way that Notre Dame gets to the playoff, college football playoff, is if Northern Illinois runs the table. And then they could end up being the group of 5 team in the playoff. I think that's the only way Notre Dame's going to make it. So I'm taking Northern Illinois -14. I'm going to stop there.
great. Hey, I wanted to get your thoughts on a game that just stuck out at me. BYU is at home getting 6.5 against Kansas State, who's ranked 13, and BYU in Provo. They play people tough there. They might be able to pull that off straight up.
Uh, you're not alone with that. My boy Phil Steele thinks the same way. BYU is undefeated. It's tough when teams go from the plains into the mountain altitude. They need to get prepared for that. Uh, that's a good one to watch. I'm not taking that, but Kansas State's -6.5. That's a lot of points.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could buy that up to 7 to be safe.
All right, you want to look at the pros?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, because I only have one game here that
So
I like.
I've got several. My first one, which I think um, it's the Giants getting 7 against Cleveland. Um, when the Giants are underdogs, they hit 62% of the time. Um,
Wow.
I like that one. Um, an- Another one that I like, and then I'll turn it to you. I love the Ravens against the Cowboys. It's
That's my pick. That's
uh,
my pick.
yeah, I don't think the Ravens go 0-3.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
just I just don't think they do. I've got the 49ers um giving 6.5 to the Rams. The Rams are just loaded with injuries. They are so down this week that they're going to have a hard time. And then in the only other upset, uh, and this is only if Jordan Love plays because he's on the injured reserve. I like Green Bay
I
at Tennessee.
Well, to comment on your New York pick, if they had a backup kicker on the roster last week, they would have beat the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, they
That is
would.
the big that is the big deal in New York all week. Is what the heck were they doing with their roster, particularly since they knew Graham Gano, the kicker, was coming back from an injury. So Daniel Jones is playing better. Cleveland is missing Myles Garrett, their top defensive end. Uh, I like that pick as well. But my pick was going to be Baltimore at Dallas. Baltimore's favored. That's amazing.
Is it by one?
Yeah, by one. But I agree with that. I think they're too good a team. I think they have uh, one of the better defenses in the NFL, and nobody trusts Dallas. So I'm happy when Dallas loses. I'm an Eagles fan.
so I'll I'll share a 3-team teaser. You can do a 7 or 10 point teaser, and it's Minnesota, Green Bay, and the Giants.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Great. So, guys, that's our picks. We're going to try and give you our picks week to week, and we'll throw some teams out there for you. We'll add a little flavor to why we chose what we chose. But I'm curious about the next topic we're going to get into, at least tease for a few minutes. And it's about, should assistant coaches get credit for the head coach's wins and losses? My feeling, being an assistant, at the time, it didn't matter because we were from a breed where we stayed with the head coach and then we went on to a coaching job. But with the new kids coming into coach and places finding it hard to find women who want to be head coaches, and I think to keep kids in place, kids want recognition. They want to be noted real quickly. They want to move up the ladder fast. I think that by participating in the wins and losses and getting credit for them, they not only help build a resume, it'll not only help them stay longer in one place to learn the game. I mean, the Chris Dailies of the world are far and few between. And the new group of kids coming up, they want to move fast. And I think overall it gives those kids recognition for putting in the same hours and the same work, and sometimes as much as their head coach.
Gary, that just to put an umbrella comment on this, I think that we both, when we coached, and I was a head coach at New Mexico State, Georgetown and Penn, I think we used the term "we" quite a bit, meaning
Yep.
that I always included my staff in our successes.
Yes.
I always included my staff in the good things that we did: recruiting, scouting, wins. Uh, the reason why, just to play devil's advocate, the reason why the assistant coaches shouldn't get the credit for all the wins is number one, when when a head coach is hired, or at least this is my experience, um, I met with the AD and the president everywhere I was. And there was a major responsibility to fulfill the mission statement and the goals of that institution as presented to me by the AD and the president. The assistant coaches aren't entrusted with that to the same level, in my opinion. Something goes wrong, they called me in. Okay. Bottom line, something goes wrong, they called you in. They called the head coach in. I always told my staff, I said, you can communicate. If I'm not, you're here to complete the communication circle with our team. I'm not the only one they can communicate with. You need to create relationships with them as well. But let me tell you something. If there's something wrong, if there's something going on, if there's a violation, or if a kid's having a problem, I better know about it. Because if I don't know about it and I get called in by the president or the AD, you're in trouble. Because they're going to point to me. So to complete the circle, the cooperation, the collaboration, the trust, the we factor is essential. But in the end, they called me in. They would call me in, or they would call my name and say, "You're gone." That's my biggest thing. I have no problem with an assistant coach saying, "We won the Big East championship when I was at Georgetown as an assistant. We had 5 all Big East players. We had 5 all academic players. I helped recruit these 5 all Big East players," because that's absolutely true. None of us ever did it by ourselves. So that, for what it's worth, that's my biggest thing.
Well,
The
so
head coach is called on the carpet.
let me share this with you. Back when we coached, it was all about hierarchy and control, and we grew up that way, right? I worked for Mary Ann. When she said jump, we just said, look, where and how and what do you need? And we just went right up the ladder. And you're right, Mary Ann, as well as when I was a head coach, I treated my staff like they were head coaches as well, like they were part of the staff. But in a world where collaboration is more ingrained in young people versus control, in a world where they want more recognition, they want to move up the ladder faster versus staying the course and working under a coach, why not give them credit for the wins? And would that create a shared responsibility to the president, to the AD? In the end, yes, the head coach meets with the president and the AD and lots of times the boosters, but the head coach also chooses the assistants.
Right.
So you're choosing somebody that literally most head coaches will choose people on the same level or people that have skills that they don't have, where they can add value to the organization. Granted, the buck's got to stop somewhere. But wouldn't a shared responsibility, if the head coach gets in trouble, the head coach just doesn't go, the whole staff goes. How often in those organizations does the head coach go and the staff retained? Rarely. So
go ahead.
And by allowing them to get credit, it would help their resumes better to show what they've done. I mean, granted, you can talk about recruiting and that, but to give an overall assistant coach win-loss record, I mean, I think helps those young kids and their resumes. And I honestly believe it helps retention. It keeps them in role a little longer than jumping to the next role so fast. And by the way, I'm a proponent of hiring people. It doesn't matter what age. If somebody's ready, they're ready. I don't, lots of times in corporate America, they say you don't have enough experience to these young kids that I would groom to be leaders. I am a proponent of, if a kid is ready, forget the experience, put him in role and work with him. But in basketball, there's so much to learn about not only the X's and O's. And I've worked with a lot of teams after I stopped coaching. And when I got out of corporate America, and that, I was just shocked at the lack of process they had around recruiting, the lack of continuity and communication they had about what of our depth charts, what are we looking for, what are we hiring for. They didn't have a talent grid. I was just blown away by that stuff. That's something that Marianne and I and Wendy worked on and met all the time on.
Wendy Larry, there's a name from the past. I really enjoyed Wendy. Really, really enjoyed her as a colleague over the years. But getting back to assistant coaches, obviously actions speak louder than numbers to me. I gave my assistants a lot of responsibility. I would give them media spots when I either didn't want to do it or I couldn't do it. I would give them responsibilities on committees at the university. I would give them all kinds of recognition because I felt that, we are a team. I mean, I can't work without you guys. You guys can't work without me. And I never paid. It was more important for me to give my assistants all the responsibility and recognition that was possible because I could never pay them enough. I didn't work at places where we paid people much at all. It was all about, you wanted to get into the game, you wanted to get experience, and then you moved on from there. The other thing that that was just coming to mind, well, it slipped my mind.
Well, maybe
I'd like to give my people a lot of responsibility. Go ahead.
Well, maybe, Pat, it's the first assistant that should get the credit. I love what the University of Connecticut is doing. They are celebrating the 40th year of Gino being the head coach and also Chris Daly being the assistant coach. So they're celebrating them as a team. And, if you look at Chris, she's got every one of those wins and she's felt every one of those losses. So to me, giving that first person that I know Gino relies on a ton and gives a ton of responsibility to, why shouldn't she get credit for the wins and losses?
Yeah, I can't argue that. I can't argue that. There's no doubt about that.
But what do you think? What do you think we down the road get a panel of assistants together and have a little conference about that?
I think it's a great idea. And we have Brian Stanchak, we have Jamie Beckler, we have coaching friends in the business. We can put together a nice panel. We will work on that.
Awesome. So anything else you want to share?
We want to plug our next podcast.
Oh,
we have
do.
Gabbie Marshall, sidekick of Caitlin Clark and the University of Iowa coming on next week. Go ahead, Jerry.
Gabbie Marshall, to me, I am so thrilled to have her on to find out what she's doing today, where she's taken her career after Iowa. But I think, Pat, you and I have spoke about this. She was the catalyst for Iowa women's basketball. She was the person that made the key shot or three when they needed to stop a rally. She was the person that made the defensive play when they needed to stop a rally. She hit the three to start a rally. She'd make the steal or the block to get things fueled for her team. I think she was the person that just got the rest of the team going. Caitlin was going to get hers. We all knew that. But I think Gabbie was the unsung hero. And besides that, personally, as a coach, and like you, we talk about being a technically sound basketball player and fundamentally sound player. Gabbie's one of the most fundamental players you'll ever see in the game and has one of the most fundamentally perfect jump shots that you would ever see. So I'm looking forward to our conversations with Gabbie, and we might have a few surprises for her, right?
We might. Yeah, we might. Always have some surprises on play-by-play.
That's right.
So thank you today, Jerry, for the picks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you too, Pat. I thought I had a good one. Let's see how we do next when we get together next week. And everybody out there, thanks for listening. Please follow, subscribe. That's how we get credit for and know who's listening to the podcast. We know we get a lot of hits, but if you follow, we'll have an opportunity to see how many people actually and what the data is, and we can analyze that with week to week so that we can improve on what we do. So thank you so much for always listening. And until next week, I'm Coach Jerry. And this is Play by Play. Thanks, Pat.